And we're back. Welcome back to another episode of Vancouver Real. I am your co-host today, Andy Zaremba, and with me, back from a little vacation, is Mike.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Nice to be back, and it's good to be doing another podcast. It's been a while. You've been on a little bit of a tear without me, so you've been cramming them in.
We have 5 podcasts in the can right now, which we need to get out.
Right.
So it's good that we're going to slow it down a little bit, get those ones out, and keep it going. So as usual, we are recording out of 70 West Cordova Street here in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, out of a local business called Float House. And if you have never heard of us before, go to floathouse.ca, check out our website. And what we do is specialize in what's known as sensory deprivation or flotation tanks, or sometimes called float pods. It depends on who you're speaking to. And the whole idea with the flotation tank is we create an environment. And the idea is to minimize the amount of sensory input coming into your body. And when you do that, it generates a very interesting state of consciousness, which is going to help facilitate, deep meditation, relaxation, inspire creativity. It's great for pain relief. So it's an interesting tool to use especially if you have a meditation practice, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I personally just took advantage of it recently coming back from my trip and being a little jet lagged and flying and all that kind of stuff. And it's just a great reset mechanism for your whole central nervous system. And that's really the unique thing that I see from the float tank is its impact on the central nervous system specifically in a very unique way of making that, reduced stimuli environment,
Definitely. And as usual, we have to give a shout out to Omega Point. And Omed, he's the one who helps us with the editing in the background of our audio and our video work. And he's got a very big YouTube channel, and he's got all sorts of really cool, inspiring, thought-provoking videos by, they're kind of mashups. So you'll see Alan Watts on there. You'll have Terrence McKenna. He's featured Graham Hancock, Jason Silva, different people like that on his YouTube channel, and really kind of good, thought-provoking videos. So definitely check out Omega Point on YouTube and Facebook. And as usual, we also give a shout out to the London Real Academy and London Real Podcast and Brian Rose. So thank you very much for tuning in, guys. And we have someone a little bit closer to home for you today.
We do.
Yes.
Coming over from the pond.
It's really interesting how, we've been linked up with certain people through this podcast. In fact, we had one of our employees, he was from, I think he was from London, right, Ruben?
Somewhere in England.
Somewhere over there.
I don't know.
Yeah. And he heard about Float House through Vancouver Real and ended up working at Float House while he was in Canada. And also we got linked up with Philip McKernan through London Real and got connected to him through Brian Rose, and he ended up on the podcast, and we did a whole speaker series event with him, and he came out and did like a whole 2.5 hour Philip McKernan special, which was amazing. So thank you for Philip for that one. And we should also mention too, while we have it, is the meetup.
Right.
We're doing a meetup. We have we're going to be doing a yoga class on June 11th at One Yoga for the People with yoga teacher Chris Duggan. So if you're interested in coming up for that, it's a free class, One Yoga for the People. Check it out. If you go to our Facebook page, you can see the event. So today, going back to our connection, and you actually had lunch with Philip today, did you not?
We had lunch this morning, yeah, so always a thought-provoking conversation with Philip. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And you can tell by the accent, we have another Irishman on the podcast by the name of Pat Divilly. Welcome to Vancouver Real.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me.
And Pat, did you email me when you were still in Ireland, or when did you contact us?
It was a couple of weeks back, so I've been on my travels. I've been in Spain. I've been to Seattle for a couple of days for a mastermind. I'm here in Vancouver for 2 weeks.
Awesome.
It was probably 3 or 4 weeks ago I contacted you.
Yeah.
I just said I'm coming through and I like what you're doing and I'd love to catch up.
Yeah.
So.
Is this your first time in Vancouver?
Yeah, first time here.
How long have you been here for?
I think today is day 4, day 5. So
cool.
I'm getting the weather like home.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm coming out in
I think next week's going to be a little bit more
I'm
inviting.
Get my hike on next week, hopefully.
Totally, yeah. You'll see what it's all about living on the west coast of British Columbia here.
And I checked you out online. You have a fairly big, I guess, Facebook following, and you are, how would you describe what you do? So you're a fitness coach and personal development coach online.
Yeah, it's ever evolving. So I was trying to put a definition on it, but again, speaking to Philip today, it was kind of like, you don't need to define these things. Just go with what you're doing, and the right people will come.
Yeah.
I started in the fitness sphere, did a couple of books, did some TV work back home, online courses, seminars, all that kind of stuff. It's naturally, I suppose, progressed into more personal development work, just because that's what interests me. And I suppose work-wise, I want to do what interests me because it's taken up so much of my life. I don't want to do things for the sake of doing things, you know.
You were saying before we started that, you were kind of doing it yourself, and then your clients, your fitness training clients that you were working with, and that's actually a really cool story we'll get into, but they kind of caught on to what you were doing personally, and then you just kind of started facilitating that kind of stuff. Eh? So it definitely seems like there's a whole, or like a craving or a niche market here for this personal development stuff that you've definitely tapped into. Eh?
Yeah, I think I was showing people with fitness and through the tool of fitness what they could do in different areas. So, there was people coming in learning to do push-ups, and that was translating to other areas in the sense that it was, giving them the confidence to start new jobs or go for promotions or leave, all sorts of things, leave abusive relationships. Mm-hmm. The stuff they were doing off the back of fitness was just a trigger to let's start putting a bit more the personal development work in there, get people setting goals, get people practicing gratitude.
Right.
And yeah, just scratching the surface brought great results. And I thought, if I push this stuff more, what could be done?
I was going to say that's super, it's super powerful. Like, Andy and I have been very physically involved our whole lives as ex-athletes. And that kind of just parlayed into just, physical fitness regimes as adults and stuff like that. And I'm not surprised to hear that having that foundation of physicality and feeling healthy and feeling vibrant, like that life energy, you're like, man, I have the energy to just, when you get into that routine of fitness and health and wellness, that it can be a huge catalyst. It seems like it is such a necessary foundation, diet, nutrition, rest, for these, greater levels of, say, personal development or personal, I like your term, acceptance as well. Yeah. Personal acceptance. I think that's a huge point, actually.
Yeah, that's something I'm kind of getting into, is the idea that rather than adding more, sometimes it's just taking back, so rather than adding information all the time, adding theories all the time, sometimes it's a case of stripping back on the stories you've told yourself or the stories the world has told you. Because coming into the world, you're perfect and there's nothing wrong. And then your identity is normally shaped by the people around you and your environment as opposed to yourself. So you wake up as an adult and you're like, okay, I am this person. You've been told you're that person by other people, generally speaking.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I really like about what you said before when we were off air is that you're a gateway. You're a gateway into fitness and a gateway into personal development, which is, I think, really important because let's just go with fitness for right now. If you're out of shape and you've been sedentary for maybe 10 plus years, and let's say you're strolling down the street one day and you see a CrossFit gym and you see all these guys just doing crazy pull-ups and snatches and cleans and everything else, you're going to look at that and be like, there's no way I'm stepping in that gym, right? And what's so important for any great teacher, would it be, physical fitness, would it be personal development, is the ability to meet people where they're at, and gently bring them in, as opposed to just like throwing them, to the wolves and like say, all right, go in there and start doing muscle ups or whatever they do in CrossFit, right? Yeah. And I think it's such a great way to get people involved because, again, even with personal development, like you said, like if someone went to a Tony Robbins seminar, it can be so out there for people. People are like, what? It's just so off their radar. They won't even pay attention, won't even listen. Yeah. So they need someone like you who can bridge that gap between normal life, their normal life, and where they could go with it, right? And that's kind of what you do.
For me with the fitness stuff, it was, the first time I run a fitness business, I was like you guys in the sense I grew up around fitness. I loved the gym, so I assumed everybody loved the gym. And I just want to make people strong, get them doing pull-ups, get them doing clap push-ups, getting them crazy strong and six packs. And that business failed. That was one-to-one training. I moved to Dublin, which is the capital, back home. I was a big dreamer, was going to do all these amazing things. Just didn't happen for me. So I moved home. And when I came back home, I moved back in with my parents, started working in a pizza place, trying to figure out my next move. And I started this fitness class on my local beach. And the difference coming back to it that time was I was working with average Joes and Janes. And these were the people that didn't grow up around the gym or hadn't been to the gym in 10 years. So it was a completely different dynamic. It was my whole goal became make this accessible to everyone, and almost to the point that I didn't want to train the guys. I would happily tell some of my clients, okay, I think you've run your course here, time for CrossFit. If you really want to evolve, I don't want to lose you, but I want to see you, reach your potential, and this isn't the place
growing
anymore. Yeah. So
can I ask you, let's go back to your first business that, quote unquote failed.
Yeah.
It really just changed your direction and,
Yeah.
you went on with there. Why do you think, what was it like? What part of it like kind of pitted out? Like, what was it? The clients? Was it your motivation? Like, what happened with that enterprise that didn't really work, in your opinion, looking back at it?
It was so many things. I mean, I think I was 22. I moved from my smallish town to the capital, big dreams. It was a saturated market. The recession was just kicking in. I was telling myself these stories, and now see looking back that I could overcome these things, but I was too young to run a business. I just, I don't know. I didn't know how to market. I was just learning how to train people properly.
Yeah.
I was just young, and it just wasn't the right time. And it was one of those that when I hit my low point, which was, coming home feeling like a failure, being broke on Christmas, borrowing money to get the bus home. My mum's birthday is Christmas Day. I couldn't get her a gift. All these things was the thing that set me up to actually come back stronger. It's always the way, the little adversity sets you up for the greater good.
Yeah, definitely.
And I came with a sense of empathy then. I think I realized that a lot of people had stuff going on in different areas, and fitness was not just about push-ups. Fitness was you're spending 45 minutes with me. I don't know what's going on in your life, but I know that I can be a good part of your day. And that was the new ethos. So
very cool.
Definitely. And it's very common that somebody starts something for the first time. And a lot of people, it is true. A lot of people fail their way to success in one way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And also I really liked how you touched on the point that it took you hitting a low point to really say, all right, enough is enough, Eckhart Tolle has this famous quote that all addiction begins with pain and ends with pain, right? So it's like sometimes to get out of something, out of a rut, out of a cycle that we happen to be in, you need to experience that deep pain. Yeah. And for you, maybe it was the trigger of not being able to give your mom a gift on her birthday.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, thanks, not for me anymore.
Yeah. It was desperation. I don't know who says that. It's inspiration or desperation that pulls you to where you want to go. You're so inspired by this big vision that you've got, or you just reach a point where, I've gotten to write books and go on telly, all these things the last couple of years. That was never part of the plan. It was just, I don't want to be broke anymore. I don't want to be depressed anymore. I want to be able to provide for the people around me. I want to start this fitness class. It was desperation. It wasn't something pulling me. It was something, it was just wanting to get away from there.
Let's go into that story a little bit, because you kind of shared it to us a little bit before, how you started with 5 people and just went to like your beach and to start training these people. And then within the first year, it grew to 500 clients.
That's impressive.
That's crazy growth. Yeah. So kind of talk us through that story, kind of how it happened and just that whole process and then where it went from there.
That was, like I say, I moved home Christmas Eve. A friend of mine gave me work in a pizza shop.
Sounds delicious.
I know. All my friends that I grew up with were coming in every day and kind of saying, I thought you were, doing well in Dublin as a trainer, and just swallowing your pride every day and just feeling awful. And eventually I just said, I'll try this fitness thing one more time, and didn't have money for rent, but I had the beach. And, it's not like the beaches in California. It's like the beach, it's this kind of weather. It's raining. Yeah. It's even the people closest to me that supported me said, no one's going to train down on the beach. But I said, drop a dress size in 28 days or I'll give you your money back. That was my kind of prompt and my offer. So 5 people turned up the first day. And the ethos was just, treat these people like the most important people in the world, make them feel amazing, realize they've got stuff going on in their work life and their home life, and then they're coming to me and I can hopefully, ease. Maybe they're perfect in every area, but chances are they're stressed and the stuff going on. And 3 times a week, they train with me for 45 minutes. If I instill belief in them and I make them feel like they belong to something, this thing's going to grow. So yeah, second month, 20 people, third month, 100 people. And just continue to grow. It was an incredible community that started with me kind of believing in them, even though I didn't believe in myself at the time. Mm-hmm. Then it was reciprocal. It came back. They started to think, they believe in me, and it just becomes a culture of belief. So it was a special time, definitely for me. That growth initially.
In the beginning, you said how you treated them like the most important people in the world, right? And then you said you instilled belief, and that's what kept them coming back.
Yeah.
How did you instill belief in them?
It's such a simple thing. I don't know. It's what I'm good at. I'm a trainer. People think I'm a great trainer because I've got all these followers, but I know the same amount, probably less push-up variations than the next trainer. But I know that it's not about the push-ups. It's not about the broccoli. It's not about the sit-ups. It's about the couple of words that you say to the person. It's telling them they can do more than they think they can do, and getting 1% better every session, and giving them something to shoot for, and just quiet words. I'm not an overly loud or overly animated Mr. Motivator style character, but I'll have a quiet word with each client, each session, and kind of say, amazing work, you're getting stronger on the push-ups, and they leave with their chest proud, and they probably don't get that in different areas. And then it was just, okay, we're going to try a Tough Mudder race. We're going to try a half marathon. We're always shooting for something, because if you don't have something to look forward to, you start to look around you get distracted, I think. And it was effectively goal setting in a way, and just keeping the focus. A lot of people lose weight, and then they've hit their goal, so they just fall off the wagon, and it becomes a vicious circle. But if it's always shooting for something else, it takes them away from the weighing scales. It takes them away from this being a quick fix, and it becomes a lifestyle. So, it goes, I wanted to lose weight, but now I do mud runs, and I do adventure races, and I do this, that, and the other, and it's just who I am.
Right.
And that's what it was.
And it sounds like the community and the culture you built there just started to feed into itself like a positive feedback loop. It just was like, people start connecting with each other. Maybe people they knew, maybe they didn't know before, but they're all kind of working hard and sweating, and it's bonding, right? It's very, I'm sure people probably really enjoyed the social element of it as well, eh?
That was the biggest part, and it was, breaking down the barriers that you have in the real world, I suppose. You go to work and you wear your suit and tie, and you have to be a certain person, even though that's only a fraction of who you really are. But people start to define themselves as, well, I'm an accountant, and I'm a father, that's who I am. But there's more to someone than that. So they come to the fitness class, and I had everyone introduce yourself to everyone in the group. It's childish games just to break the ice and make people, feel comfortable. And then the workout starts. So that was the biggest part, was just, make people feel at ease.
Yeah. And I can totally see how doing that, or being able to do that, would spin into personal development. Now, on your bio, it says, personal acceptance and personal development. What would you say? Obviously, those terms are kind of self-explanatory. However, you don't really hear the term personal acceptance coach all that much. So maybe go into that a little bit.
It's something I'm probably working through myself at the moment, in terms of, I'm traveling for a month at the moment, and a lot of the travel is, me in a journal and working on concepts and trying to come up with theories and come up with insights and ways of explaining things that click with people. Personal development, you've got all the traditional stuff of set goals and do your to-do list and all this kind of basic stuff. For some people, it's just adding more clutter to an already busy mind, and it's making them judge themselves, and it's making them more stressed and overwhelmed, and they're looking at people around them and they think everyone else has it figured out. So the personal acceptance idea is more, there's nothing wrong with you. You've just been told certain things by other people and by yourself that have shaped how you act. So you're a child. You look at a child in the pram, they're perfect. And then they get to 4 or 5 years old, and your father or mother will say, be quiet. And you attach a meaning to that. And you suddenly think, well, I should be quiet now in certain situations. And you don't use your voice anymore. And then someone says something to you in school, and you just attach meanings to all these things growing up. And that's how we're designed. We attach meanings to things. We tell ourselves stories. Other people tell us how we should be. Our society tells us how we should be, what religion, all these kind of things. So personal acceptance is nearly peel back these layers that have been put on you.
Now, how do you, let's say somebody is really attached to those stories about themselves, and they have all these negative self-images or criticisms about themselves. Where do you start with somebody who maybe has a fairly negative outlook on themselves?
One of the things, I did a seminar in Seattle the other night, and the first exercise, it was only an hour I was doing, but this was probably the most important exercise, was literally just, can you take 10 minutes, please, to list all the things you're proud of, or you've accomplished, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And people started breaking down, crying and stuff in front of me, and I wasn't sure what was happening, but it's a standard enough thing, because everyone's comparing themselves to other people, and suddenly they take 2 minutes to think about, what have they done? There was a lady there that had overcome cancer, and she almost forgot to write down that she had overcome cancer, and she broke down over that, So that's part of it, is, recognize where you've come from, what you've done, recognize that you're enough as you are. I like to get people defining what success looks like to them, because there's such an external view of what success is. You know, you look at kids in school and they just think whatever Kim and Kanye West do, that must be what success is, because that's what society tells you. So I'll wear those clothes and I'll be that way and I'll go to these places. And maybe they'll get there someday. They'll spend their whole life chasing what Kim and Kanye have, and they'll get there and they'll feel empty and they'll feel depressed because they chased the wrong thing. And most people chase the wrong thing because they never define what is success to them. So, you know, I did that back home. I starting out, I wanted to be on the TV, national telly. That was success. And I went and I did it, and I felt stressed, overwhelmed, anxious, didn't enjoy it, but I thought it was cool because it was what successful people did. So now I don't do that anymore. You know, I get offered that stuff, but that doesn't interest me. So success to me is, you know, being able to travel, being able to affect people in a positive way with my work, have work that doesn't feel like work, wake up with good energy. I defined what success looks like to me, so I can chase the right thing. If chase is even the word, I can be the right thing.
Yeah. Nice.
I think that's a huge point, is like helping people, you know, just through the process of defining success for themselves. You know, I think that's such a huge thing that isn't really taught in, you know, I think obviously education systems here in Canada, and I'm not, you know, but I think a lot of places in the world is like, you know, let people empower themselves to define what success is to them and to pursue what, you know, ultimately what they should be pursuing, self-created, you know. And I think that's a huge part that is probably a part of why so many people are, you know, seeking different modalities of personal development or personal acceptance, and just, you know, and trying to improve themselves in their own way.
Is it personal development has become a pretty big thing in North America, definitely in Canada, and around here, a lot of people do personal development work in different ways. Different companies, like there's like Landmark, there's Science Seminars, all these companies that do personal development work. Is that prevalent in Ireland?
No, and it's something I see as an opportunity. You know, people are saying to me, "You're crazy to think you can bring this stuff into Ireland because this is woo-woo and people won't buy into this stuff." But I just feel like I'm living it, and I've lived it in the public eye to a certain degree the last couple of years. So I'm not, you know, a 6 or 7 figure, 8 figure business coach that's, you know, just putting ads on Facebook and come out of nowhere. People have seen my journey, and I've been vulnerable and open with ups and downs and stuff like that. So I think because people have seen my growth, they buy into it more. Mindfulness is the big thing back home. That's the big buzzword.
Interesting.
But you know, I think the recession hit us hard back home, and it made people take stock of what was important. You know, health became huge. Everybody's out running and cycling and doing all this stuff. Personal development, it is getting more accepted. I don't even like the word. We're trying. I think between myself and Philip, we're trying to come up with a better word for you know, life coach or whatever.
It is tough, right? It's really interesting because the same things that you're talking about in Ireland happen here a lot. Like, you know, health and wellness related. You know, the mindfulness meditation, tapping back into some kind of spirituality, and along that comes, you know, the personal development stuff. Like, you know, and the mindfulness stuff is great. Meditation is great. You know, kind of stripping away the ego and that kind of thing. Personal development really comes in because it's like, well, we do have an ego and we need to function with that ego well in our world to be successful, right?
Yeah.
So it's like taking a look at yourself, really, is what it is. And I'd be very surprised if it didn't catch on in Ireland, because it seems like the trends are all the same.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely coming, and I'm hoping I'm going to be a big part of that in the years to come. Because it's fulfilling. You know, I'm 28 and I've got people twice my age coming to seminars and again, having breakthroughs that, you know, to me, what seems like a simple exercise of define what success is, define what your core, I like people defining core values in the sense of, you know, who do you want to be, as opposed to what you want to get. And the way I'd get them to do that is look at traits that they admire in other people and try to bring them out of themselves more. So, right, if you've got someone on a pedestal, it's probably because of traits that they've got, which you've also got. And it's probably a sign that you should bring them out of yourself more. Same way, if there's things you don't like about someone, it's probably a sign that you need to work on.
I've heard that before. I'm not sure where I heard it, but it's like for you to recognize, let's say, a positive trait in somebody else and you admire that, that means it's in you.
100%.
And that actually the opposite is as well. If there's a trait in somebody that you really dislike, it's probably in you as well.
The world is a mirror, you know, and everything is you know, I think that it acts like a compass. It's, you know, there's different ways of doing this. You can say, what would you like people to say at your funeral?
Right.
And it's not going to be you had a Ferrari and you had this and you were like came and whatever it is. It's going to be, you know, you were genuine, you were hardworking, you were this, whatever it is for. So that's an interesting way of defining success. You know, who are you going to be?
Yeah, I did that exercise back in grad school, and it kind of came up. We were doing this, and we had to read The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey.
Yeah.
And the project was to create a coaching philosophy. So this was back when I was doing a coaching science degree. And but before you could have a coaching philosophy, you had to have a life philosophy. And part of that book was like, how do you want to be remembered when you're gone? And I'd never been posed with that question before. And then when I had to kind of sit down and sit with that and think about it, you know, it was one of those like significant, you know, level up points in my life that I can look back now on, like how it just reframed like, okay, like just even how I would conduct myself daily, you know, how to interact with people, how do I interact with myself, just developing those character traits in that person, being the person that I wanted to be. You know, when I pass.
It's a crazy question, and it's awesome. It's difficult for someone who's distracted by the noise and social media and you know constantly in noise to sit with that for a while. You know, it's a lot easier obviously to just turn back on the Facebook news feed than it is to sit with these questions and get the personal self-awareness and stuff like that. But
why do you think? Why do people think it would be hard to get personal development into Ireland? Like, what is it? Is something about the Irish people that they're
the woo
woo.
People are just like not. They think it's like,
you know. I think
what
that
is it?
Whimsical, mystical,
a little bit, fluffy.
Yeah,
that's probably the word, fluffy.
Are people really religious in Ireland?
No, I don't think so much.
Religiosity's died down.
Yeah, I mean, there's a new generation come through that. You know, most of my generation left and came to Canada. There's a lot of Irish here.
Yep.
They went to Australia. But I mean, I suppose, our trends, the internet has just brought all the trends on a level, haven't they? It used to be we were 10 years behind everyone, you know, 10 years behind England, behind America. But now I think the trends are coming the same way. I think people are becoming more open to it. But I was interested. Tony Robbins came to Ireland in January. I wasn't there, but I was interested to kind of see how he was received. Because I don't know if you've gone to his stuff, but it's it's a lot.
I know people have been to his things.
There's a lot of dancing, a lot of singing, a lot of Irish people are conservative by nature, so I was interested to see how that went down.
Did you hear anything about it?
Yeah, there was like a mixed bag. You know, people.
Some people liked it. Some people.
Yeah, I mean, he's the master of getting people into that state, but I know people would have struggled with that quite a bit.
Right.
We're a conservative nation, and that was a big jump.
Yeah. Well, it's a process.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that it's necessary in Ireland?
Yeah, I think it's needed everywhere. Self-acceptance, self-awareness, all this kind of stuff. I just think, wherever you are in the world, you've got one life to live. And if you're not thinking about what you want, if you're not thinking about what you're going to contribute, if you're not going to think about how you're going to make that happen, if you're not thinking about who's important, there's an issue because you're just living someone else's life. It's, it sounds so simple, but it's crazy to me that people are not sitting down and saying, what do I want?
No, you're missing the boat a little bit. It's like what Philip says. He's like, he believes that people don't even realize how asleep they are. And that's what he kind of looks at himself as someone that's going to wake them up a little bit. Be like, look, do you recognize the potential you represent of being a human being alive and what that opportunity means, you know? And it's crazy how such a huge number of people around the world have been almost like lulled into this slumber of whatever this is, of like just being
of our accepted social norms, accepted society,
this is what I do.
Our regular practices, our education, the economic, financial system, everything. It's just this is just the way it is.
Yeah.
Right.
It's interesting to see with the millennials coming through. They're saying that like they're more interested in experience than in possessions, and they don't want to buy houses, they don't want to buy cars, they just want to travel and they want to experience things. So it'd be interesting to see how that correlates, how that translates to life as a whole, not just their free time.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see. I just sort of stat this week that Canada's one of the highest rates of entrepreneurship in Canada, in the world. And, it makes me wonder too, if the personal development trend that you see going on here, which has been going on for a while now, has kind of sparked that, because it is people looking inside, searching themselves for answers. And they're like, I don't really know if I want to work my corporate job anymore. I want to go out my own. And now we're seeing, maybe as a reflection of all this personal development work, people are going out on their own, are being more creative, are creating their own businesses, right?
I think the recession maybe too. I don't know how bad it was here, but I know back home, people that thought they had security for life and they were going to be able to pay off their mortgage on their couple of houses, all this kind of stuff. They got a shock when everything died overnight, and maybe it made people think, well, I'm as well off giving it a go myself, because there's as much security in that as there is anything else. So it's probably a combination.
Depends on the industry, but I think in Canada, for the most part, we were out of like the global society.
We were not that bad.
We were one of the best off, I think, because our banks are relatively conservative, and just we have an abundance of natural resources. Oil was doing really well for us before, and now it's in a slump for sure. But it was, I think we kind of ran through the recession pretty. Yeah,
in Vancouver in particular, Vancouver is a bit of a microcosm. It always does well. It's a port city. Yeah. Lots of international travelers, international investment comes in here. Vancouver in itself is, they say the only two economies that are really good actually in Canada right now are Toronto and Vancouver, and the rest of it's not so hot right now actually, because the dollar went so low.
Well, I heard, sorry, we'll just keep droning on, but I heard this really cool stat about, it wasn't a stat, but they were talking about the whole affordability aspect of the city. People are really, like, young people are having a lot of issues, like even just getting their head above neutral because of affordability issues. And the one city official was saying how, like, well, Vancouver's commodity is like real estate. It's like just the land that you have to live in this city is like what drives a lot of money here. It's just an interesting perspective.
One thing I find interesting is we've done a fair bit of traveling, and anyone you meet who's from a Western country, a lot of them have almost the same values now. It seems like they're all the same issues, like environmental change, all of that. It seems to be like pervaded through most of Western culture anyways. And it's interesting because now you're moving personal development over there. You're talking about how mindfulness and meditation are moving in Ireland now. It's interesting because I don't. What do you think that is? What do you think the catalyst is that's kind of homogenized all of these values and beliefs? That's the question.
I think the internet's maybe just wide open. It's opened everything up.
Yeah.
I'm getting into all this stuff the last couple of years, and the internet's allowed me to reach a big audience. But there's a lot of teachers on my doorstep that have been there for the last 30 years doing it. Teaching mindfulness, teaching meditation with no applause and no Facebook likes and none of that stuff. So they've always been there. But I think for me anyway, being good at being able to use social media well has allowed me access to all this kind of material. It's allowed me see exactly how the people that I aspire to be like are living, because I mean, maybe, I can see how Gary Vaynerchuk spends his day. I can see how, all these people are living, and I can learn from them, whereas you probably couldn't do that 20 years ago.
Yeah, I think
yes, the internet for sure. Like the information just flows like water now everywhere. Something happens and boom, it's on Facebook, and that's all over the world within minutes probably. I don't know. Speaking of Gary Vaynerchuk, you said in your bio that you were on stage with him.
Yeah, I spoke with Gary probably, I think it was about 6 weeks ago. I was so impressed with Gary. He was I don't want to work. I'm not the hustle anymore. I did that for a while, but I'm enjoying life now with travel and everything else. But Gary's impressive. He's just, when he talks, he flows. It just comes out of him. He's the big thing with Gary was how present he is. I got a half an hour with him backstage just chatting, and for a guy that's the social media king, he's not someone who's scrolling through his newsfeed when he's talking to you. He's not someone who's at the restaurant with his phone out. He'll meet you and he's just there, and he knows your name. He's meeting I don't know how many people, but he knows your name and he's fully present. And I was very impressed with that.
For the people who don't know, who is Gary Vaynerchuk?
Gary he's the world leader in social media. He came in. I think initially he helped his dad's wine company. He started doing YouTube videos for his dad's wine company 15 years ago. They 10x'd the turnover within a year.
Wow.
He started investing in Facebook early on, Twitter early on.
When did he get started? When was that around?
I think it was late 90s, early 2000s, whenever YouTube.
So he's super early adopter.
Yeah, but he's in it. I mean, he's adopted it, or he's invested in Snapchat. He's invested in Uber. He's got, I think he's got 600 staff. He's on
cool.
whatever the main street is in New York. He's got
Madison
Avenue. I think he's got VaynerMedia is there.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah.
So what did you guys talk about?
I was asking. I've got a new book coming in October, so he was launching his book at the time. And it was one of the best book launches I've seen in terms of he was everywhere on social media. So I was just interested in seeing what was his strategy with that.
What was his strategy?
Tune into my podcast to find out.
Okay.
I mean, he leveraged all the contacts he's got. Obviously, he's got an incredible network of social media influencers. So he leveraged them to all bang it out on the same day. He ran promotions, buy 500 books, you get to spend an hour with me kind of thing. He was on every podcast in the space of a week. They brought them all out at the same time. He was running Instagram ads, Facebook ads. He hit everything. He was talking all over the world. Free talks. If you buy 2,000 books, he'll come and talk. And
wow.
Yeah.
That's how you do it. Yeah. I mean,
cool.
That would be a massive coordination effort.
Yeah. He's 600 staff. So he's probably, he's going to be
got some resources.
That helps. Yeah.
But he is as advertised because I don't know, that you see all the people, a lot of speakers and stuff like that are one way on stage and they're not like that off stage. But to me, any time I spent with him, I was, he was going on 2 hours of sleep. He had just flown in from London. He went somewhere else after. He's relentless. And I don't know how he does what he does.
How old is he?
He's probably mid-30s, I would say,
really?
late 30s.
Wow. Cool.
Awesome.
Impressive, yeah.
So back to you a little bit. What are the books you've written?
My first book was 21 Day Jumpstart. It was a kind of health and training nutrition guide for the average Joe or Jane at home. I was kind of a chancer with that. I built a bit of a following. I had 20,000 on Facebook, I think, at the time. And I put up on Facebook, I said, I've just finished my first book. Would any publishers be interested? And I hadn't started a book. I was just chancing it. And a publisher rang me up and they said, we're interested. So I had like 3 weeks to get this book turned around. And it was just a basic guide, right? Here's the principles of paleo. I generally go with paleo because it grew from 5 to 500 clients. I wasn't going writing meal plans for 500 clients, and paleo was the one that made sense for the masses to me. So it was a paleo guide, at-home workouts, a bit of mindset stuff in there, my own story in there. And that publisher signed me and it went well. It was a bestseller back home.
Wow.
Second one was a collaboration paleo cookbook with a chef back home. That was another bestseller. And this next one is my first in the UK. So I signed with Wiley over in the UK. And this is kind of the personal development, personal acceptance. So that's October. So
cool.
I'm excited.
And what's your podcast called?
Upgrade Your Life.
Upgrade Your Life. And it's through your website.
It's on patdivilly.com. Yeah. So I'm not as consistent as you guys with it. But to me, the podcast, you're probably the same. It was like a selfish thing in the sense I just wanted to talk to interesting people, and
100%, man. That's what we're doing. It's so crazy, though. I mean, it's, it's interesting how it's just opened up so many channels for us, right? Like the fact that you're sitting here right now is a perfect example of it. Like, this conversation probably would have never happened if it wasn't for creating this little medium.
The same way, like, I'll hop on, I saw Philip's interview with you guys and I'll check out other interviews of people that I never would have heard of, and that open a whole new network of people to me. And, I think the people that come on these shows, listen to these shows, are involved with these shows, have similar values, similar ideals, and similar mindsets. So the world's just getting smaller and smaller in a good way, which
Definitely.
is exciting.
I remember who said this. It might have been, what's that really famous marketer guy?
With the glasses.
Glasses. That guy.
Jay Abraham, is it?
No. Why can I see his face right now?
I know. Looks like
he talked about how online essentially what's happening is
Seth Godin.
Seth Godin. Thank you.
There you go.
The dinosaur.
Yeah.
I don't know why he's looking at me.
Yeah. He talks about how there's basically online tribes being formed right now. And that's the thing, right? I mean, someone who listens to Philip McKernan's podcast would be probably very interested in listening to this podcast with you. And then perhaps they jump over to your website and they listen to your podcast. And then maybe they find a guest that they're interested in your podcast. And it becomes like this kind of circle or realm of influence, maybe. And then they kind of just, you start running into the same faces over and over and over. It's kind of interesting.
been exciting for me the last couple of years in terms of, you know, I've joined mastermind groups and stuff like that. So all these people that I had them on pedestals at the time. I don't have anyone on a pedestal anymore because I realized that you shouldn't look up or down. You know, you should see everyone as equal. And, you know, again, any good traits you see in people, you have the same. Any bad traits, you have the same. So just work on improving those areas. But people that I looked up to a lot, I would consider, you know, friends and stuff like that now, which is cool. And that's, again, through the internet and just put myself in positions where I can meet these people, you know.
Through some of your masterminds, who else have you worked with?
I've just joined Yannick Silver's mastermind, Maverick 1000. So that's pretty cool. There's a good network. There's about 160 in there. And, you know, some of these guys are flying private jets and all this kind of stuff.
Wow.
They've got their own private jets, which, you know, is kind of crazy. But, you know, just the level of conversation is up there. What's cool about his group is it's based around experience, contribution, and growth. So you do a 3-day event every couple of months. The first day is let's work on the business, gets cool speakers in. The speaker at the past event was Dan Price, I think his name is. He's the CEO that gave all the money to... He took a pay cut last year and gave 70 grand to all of his employees. I don't know if you remember.
Did he
that
work for an
story.
airline?
No, he had his own... what was his company?
It's like
They're a credit card processing company or something.
Okay.
I think.
It rings a bell for sure.
Yeah, I saw that story.
So they'll do like day 1 is business, day 2 is contribution. So they bring in a local charity, and as entrepreneurs, we'll brainstorm ways of improving things for the charity, and we give a contribution. And day 3 is experience. So you don't know what's coming, and they just bring you out. So in Seattle, we went glass blowing. And what else do we do? Dragon boat racing. So
Fun. That's
it's
cool.
it's a nice mix. It's a nice way of meeting people rather than being sitting in a conference room for 3 days like most business events.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So what motivates you? You know, you seem like you genuinely want to help people in life. So what is it that you know, makes you so interested in helping other people?
I hit a very low point, you know, when I failed with that business, and when I hit I came back Christmas, like I say, there was 6 months there where I just hated life and I didn't want to get out of bed in the morning, and I didn't see any hope. And, you know, I've turned the corner obviously massively since then, and I'm just grateful every day for the opportunities. I get to travel, you know, whatever I get to do, I'm grateful for. And I just see the world as possibility. That's all I see. And I see such potential in other people because, again, I was that guy that didn't want to get out of bed, and I've been able to go to 11,000 customers. I mean, you know, I've been able to do lots of things. We did $250,000 for charity. You know, if I can turn my life around, anyone can, because, again, we've all got the same traits. We've all got the same thing within us. So I'm just inspired by, you know, every conversation is an opportunity to spark something in someone. And we go through life, there's less and less connection with people. So I just want to get as many people as possible kind of awaken to the fact that you don't have to go and quit your job and go live your dreams straight away, but you can make little improvements today that are going to help you get on a path to a more fulfilling life that brings more passion and stuff like that.
Right. And you can almost do that process with pretty much everyone. So you focus more on people who are just getting into that world, right? And you kind of, like I said, like the gateway into personal development. How would you work with somebody who's a high performer, who's already performing well, very happy in their life?
Yeah.
What would you do with a person like that?
Well, it depends on that, like the high performer thing, because I was speaking to people about this recently, and I think with a lot of like go-getters that are making millions and all that kind of thing, a lot of the time the health and the relationships and the other areas are suffering. And rather than address those things, it's easier, like I know this from experience, it's easier to immerse yourself in more work and become busier than, again, to take the space and to step back and to delegate the work and actually work on the stuff that matters. Because the business doesn't matter when at the
end of the day,
because again, your deathbed, no one cares how many employees you had and stuff like that.
I like the term you used there, taking space. Did you get that from Philip?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about Philip and how because he emphasized like doing the softer work, you know, the softer work on yourself, like kind of like tapping into your feelings and like looking at yourself, like, you know, just as with some acceptance and some compassion and being honest, like, yeah, where in my life am I maybe not being all I could be, and where am I kind of shying away from and being maybe fearful of and being scared and being open to that, you know? With
you know, the first year, like I said, I went from 5 to 500. I opened a gym. I did my book. I did all these things. But when I should have been happy with what was happening, I was scared. I was just scared that I was going to go back to being a nobody. So I was just digging my heels in and doing as much work as I could. And it was just crazy. My relationships were suffering, my health, everything was suffering. So it's only the last, 18 months probably that I do this, I've got the term now, making space, but I didn't know what it was, but it was step away and get some clarity and get some. Yeah.
It seems like you're in a really nice position right now where, a lot of your business is online, correct?
Yeah.
And you're actually just traveling around right now and you're running your business remotely, I guess, right?
Yeah, which is good. I mean, I go home in June. I do a couple of seminars, a couple of corporate gigs and talks and stuff like that. And then I'm going to Machu Picchu and Everest Base Camp in the autumn. So I'm bringing groups there.
Not bad.
But yeah, no, I'm enjoying it. I mean, that was a struggle as well. When I closed my gym, we had such an amazing community. The gym was only there for 2 years. That was my childhood dream, to have a gym, and I opened it up on my doorstep where I grew up. We built this amazing community, became probably the hub of the little area. It was the heart of the little area I'm from. And to close the gym, I was fearful of, are people going to think I'm stepping away from them? Are people going to think I'm too big for my boots? But my thing was, I'm telling all these people, live your dreams and live with passion and all these things. And I want to travel. And I don't feel like, this is starting to feel like a job to me, and I don't want to have a job.
So was there no option to sell the gym and have someone else run it?
I gave it to the guy that works for me. So he runs it now, which is great.
So it's not gone.
No, it's not gone.
That's
and a lot of the community is still there, which is brilliant. But that was definitely a scary thing, and that was one of the things people probably don't see. They'll see, oh, you're traveling, everything's online, and there's good money coming in. You're living the life. That was probably something that. I spoke to someone again about this, was the idea that when you start anything, like you start this podcast, you've got nothing to lose. You try things, you go out there, you put it, you do it your way, everything else. And then if you establish something, suddenly you've got something to lose. So you can sometimes get fearful and you don't step up again. So when I had the gym, I was fearful and I was like, what if I close the gym and it all falls apart? Yeah. And stepping into the next level was, okay, have faith that by closing the gym, I'm going to evolve.
Step into something else. Yeah, I think it was in the movie Fight Club. He said, the things you own end up owning you.
Yeah.
It's a famous little line there. It's so true though, right?
Yeah, that's
you accumulate all these things and now you have to protect those things, or you get fearful of losing them, right?
And again, what for? Because when you peel everything back, people want more connection, and I think it's connection is the biggest thing people want, totally. And that doesn't come from possession.
Definitely. I'm trying to think of another question right now.
I think that's a huge point. Actually, I had this kind of thought epiphany, I don't know when, how long ago, but just about connection, that word, and how that seems to be like the nature of like behind all of our stuff that we do as human beings. Like we look at telecommunications and transportation and obviously the internet and things like that. Like connection was the word that came to me about just like, that really is like what we're striving for. And like, what's like, it's fueling everything, even the things that are, maybe making an imbalance in this world now. I still think it's like underneath that, it's like, there's I don't know what it is of connection, that there's like a driving force behind it, but I think there's something there for sure.
I was journaling metaphysically. I was journaling on this today and looking at things that are like maybe negative things that are, I think maybe to bring connection. I said, maybe people smoke because it's an opportunity to step away from the office, the stressful environment, be around like-minded people, have a conversation and get connection. Maybe that's why they smoke. Maybe people
smoke cannabis or cigarettes?
Cigarettes, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, we're in Vancouver, brother. We got to clarify.
Yeah.
But maybe people drink, and I know this from personal experience, people drink because you're going to feel more comfortable in a social setting, which is going to give you more connection because you can be yourself more.
Right.
Everything's for connection, I think. So it's because we're lacking it.
How often do you journal?
I'm trying to get better on it now, and it's helping massively. That was my thing when I came away for this. I'm on 5 weeks or 6 weeks away on this trip, and it's easy getting a comfort zone with anything you're doing. And I've done a lot of talks recently, and I'm not going through the motions. I always get into it, but I need new material. Because I'm evolving and I want my talk to be evolving. So I've got more talks in July. I want to, one of the challenges I set myself is I'm not telling any of the same stories, any of the same jokes, any of the same material.
Right.
3.5 hours of brand new material. So the journal is helping me that.
Right. So what do you do with it? Do you kind of just start exploring ideas? Like, do you start writing about a subject? Do you start doing personal stuff in terms of like what you're feeling?
Yeah, if I'm reading books, I'm gonna take some. So I was reading Conversations with God yesterday,
Okay.
and there was the love versus fear thing. Everything you do is either out of love or out of fear when you peel it back.
Is that by Neil Donald Walsh?
Yeah, really good actually.
Yeah, I've
It's
heard
one
it's
of those
really
that kept popping up, so it was a sign to
Okay.
me I got to read it.
Yeah.
But I did love versus fear, so I just did for my own life. Love looks like I create things, I'm confident, I go out and help people, da da da. Fear looks like I shy away, I curl up into a ball, I'm anxious, and I just journaled what those things look like to me. And then I talked about, why would you live in fear? Why would you live in love? And it's just interesting. When you just trust yourself with pen and paper, sometimes even for a dummy like me, some cool stuff comes out.
Did you grow up with any kind of like religiosity or spiritual influence?
No, I mean, I read Think and Grow Rich, and all, that's probably my only. The spiritual stuff was the old school personal development, like Dale Carnegie and Napoleon Hill and stuff when I was young. But I never applied this stuff. My family's Catholic, but I never practiced. And yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I was going to ask you, what's a fairly big, well, I wouldn't say big, a trend that is definitely happening in North America for sure, and it is the resurgence of like psychedelic use. Is that something that's reached Ireland yet?
In small pockets, I would say, in the same way that, like, again, the people that are watching certain podcasts, that's something they're open to. Where I'm from, the west of Ireland, is quite shamanistic. There's a lot of that stuff there in the background. The same way there was guys teaching meditation 30 years ago that we've never heard of, or I've never heard of. That stuff's going on all the time for the last. So I think there's a certain amount. I don't know how big it is in North America. It's very prevalent?
It's I would say it's becoming more known for sure, and it's definitely in this city, certainly on the West Coast. Definitely, there's a lot of awareness around ayahuasca. Have you ever heard of ayahuasca?
Yeah, well, I would say like the guys coming to my one-day seminar, 400 people in the room, there's only a fraction of them. The guys that come to my retreats, they would all be aware,
things like that.
I know a handful of people from home that have done ayahuasca, but I've not done it yet.
It's funny because it does seem like they do kind of cross over into the personal development realms in different ways, right? Because if you take those substances, it's like having the door cracked open into your mind in a way that is almost impossible to ignore, and that's the experience that I've had with them in the past. Is that you get really real about your life real quick, and anything that's kind of underlying comes up. Like what they'll say is it increases the permeability between your conscious and subconscious mind. So anything that's kind of dwelling in the back is going to come up to the front and say like, hey, I'm here. You better deal with this thing, and definitely not for everybody, for sure.
I was looking at it last year, and just the way my schedule was, because I was out in Costa Rica, and I think there was the opportunity there to do it, and I just felt I had too much going on when I came home. I felt I needed a couple of weeks to decompress after that.
I think being true to that feeling as well, not forcing it. I think recognizing it's just something I really want to do, and then making sure that you try to do it in like what you feel is the most appropriate setting for yourself, whatever that may be, with whatever substance that may be.
Have you guys looked up Vipassana meditation at all? That's something I want to do first. I think the 10 days.
I did one of those almost 10 years ago now.
Oh, wow.
In India when I was traveling around a little bit, and they're phenomenal. I agree. Yeah, I think that's very wise actually to do something like that before, say, something a little bit more invasive, if you will. However, a 10-day Vipassana retreat, and if someone doesn't know what that is, Vipassana is well, you can go there for free. There's retreat centers all over the world. It's really fascinating, actually. It's a silent meditation retreat where they basically do what happens in a float tank. They strip away everything, but this is just in more of a psychological, behavioral context. So no reading, no writing. You don't listen to music. You don't exercise. You actually don't even make eye contact with your fellow, retreat people. And they teach you this meditation technique, which is very simple. It's not, it's not woo-woo. It's not anything like that. It's very just self-explorative with the sensations of your body. and then developing like an equanimous perspective on it versus like a reacting. You can see like, oh, am I reacting to this, or can I just be equanimous to it? And it's extremely challenging for sure. Like, it's 10 days, and it's definitely a great journey to go through. And I think Mike Nichols says it really well. It's like, I don't wish it upon anybody, but I recommend it for all, or something like that.
I don't wish it upon anybody, but I recommend it for everyone,
right,
kind of thing. Because I'm sure it's going to be challenging. 10 days of complete silence, no talking, nothing.
I don't know who I spoke. I spoke to someone. It was a speaker. It was someone that I thought would be quite open to that, and they completely dismissed it. And they just said again the connection thing.
What speaker?
I can't remember. I genuinely can't remember who it
try
was.
it?
No, but they just said the whole idea didn't make sense to them, that you're going to disconnect. Again, the world is about connection, but maybe you're connecting with yourself. But
yeah, exactly.
Well, it's that idea that Philip talks about, what you mentioned, taking space, right? Getting really quiet and just like, okay, what's going on for me? What's going on inside of me? Similar to what we do in a float tank. We do like a little microcosm of that, where you're in there for 90 minutes. When you tell people they're going in for 90 minutes, you might as well tell them they're going away for a 10-day retreat or something, because they're like, whoa, I could never do that for 90 minutes. So
I've done the float tank a couple of times. Yeah. It's a couple of hours for me at home, so I don't get to do it consistently. But I definitely got it.
It's a great tool. I mean, it's funny. Yeah. I mean, I can see how people have that perception of like, oh, why would you want to go into isolation? We're all about trying to connect here, and one thing that comes up for me with that is like, on the moment of your death, if you're lucky enough to be conscious when you're on your deathbed and you're going to go, you better be comfortable with yourself, because you're not taking anybody with you. And, that's what these things kind of can help you comes to a comfort with, is like, I'm okay with myself. I'm okay with being alone, because you will be alone when you depart. At least perceivably at that moment, your ego will be like, I'm going now, and that's that, And so I think people who resist that, you're gonna be confronted with that one way or another. You're not getting out of this alive, So I think it's an existential angst that people have of like, I don't want to be alone, But there's healthy alone for sure. I firmly personally believe that, and I experience that, So yeah, it's interesting, but that's, everyone's on their own little journey, right? And like kind of acknowledging where people are at, and if they connect with you in a certain way, then that's where you work with them and just be there in their life, like being present, like you're talking about how Gary was with you. Just be there, man. Yeah. Be there with people in the moment. Connect with them, like listen to them, feel them, and it's so important, man. And the more connected you are with yourself, the more you'll be able to be connected with another person.
Yeah,
it's the mirror. It's the same thing. What's in is out. What's out is in. There's no separation. And so, I personally try to go very balanced. I try to do a little bit of everything. I try to do public speaking because it scares me, but it's so enriching too. I'll go into my isolation and meditation, and then I'll also go to a big party, go to a big festival or whatever. Like, try to do a little bit of it all, because it's all part of the experience. Yeah. So
is there
that's my rant for the day.
Isolation tanks or float tanks in Ireland?
Well, that's the thing. I think there's only two, and they're up in Dublin, which is a 2.5 hour drive from me. So I've made the trip a couple of times, but obviously I presume you got to do maybe 10, 12 sessions before you really, maybe
it's different for everyone. Different for everyone, for sure. Yeah. What's the population of
5 million?
5 million in Dublin?
5 million.
I mean,
no, in Ireland, 1 million.
Wow.
Dublin. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, so okay.
70,000 where I'm from.
So it's not going to be a huge market. I mean, like,
I was going to buy a float tank, put it in my house.
There you go. Well, I'm telling you, in a place where that mindfulness and meditation trend is there's probably room for something like this there. Because it is like you can totally spin it into a different way to meditate, and it absolutely is. It's just it's a different experience than when you're sitting in a park or in a yoga studio or whatever it happens to be.
And also a personal development tool.
Absolutely, it's great for personal development work. A lot of creative insights happen in there. I mean, again, if you have those similar mindsets in Ireland, I could totally see it going over there.
I did a singing bowl session recently. I don't know if you guys have done that. I found that really good.
Oh yeah, they're amazing.
Yeah.
Matthew Coachell.
Sound. Sound is vibration, and it it's a certain level of truth that now you don't necessarily can intellectualize it, but it penetrates all, man. It goes through it all. It resonates right through any ego, anything. You don't block sound. You experience sound. And yeah, I've done to like tons of, they're called like, sound baths or, things of that nature, sound journeys, whatever. They're incredible. Rattles, singing bowls, gongs, chimes, like all these things. They're incredible tools to experience for sure.
Yep.
Yeah. Whole new world.
This is going to switch gears a little bit, talking about some of those exercises you were diving into before. Let's just go there for a minute. If this was your last day on the planet and you knew it, what would be your message to the world? What would you tell them? What would be your message?
Be your own hero. Be the leader of your own life, and just recognize that this is it. A lot of people say someday I'm going to be charitable and I'm going to give back. Someday I'll practice gratitude. Someday I'll live my dreams. Someday when I have enough, it's bullshit. This is it now. There is only the here and now. You got to start exhibiting what you want to be. Someday is just an illusion. I think not to be too philosophical or whatever, but it's got to happen now. I mean, I'm lucky I got around that fairly early on. It was 24 when I kind of said enough is enough. I'm not just going to spend my life putting other people on pedestals and watching them live their dreams. I'm going to give things a go, and I'm going to be unafraid to fail. I'm going to be unafraid to look silly. I'm going to be unafraid to put myself out there. The only thing I'm going to be afraid of is being a coward and stepping down and not living. Because we've got this opportunity, why not try things? Why not make a fool of yourself? Why not take a chance? Why not take a risk? I think that when you come out as your true self and you give yourself and you're courageous, if that's the word, because no one's fearless, we're courageous, it shines a light on other people and it makes them, it just opens their eyes to what they could potentially be. So you're only helping people by, being that way yourself. And we all have the voice of self-doubt at times, but it's just learning to turn that down.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Yeah, it's so cool.
That's a great answer.
Yeah, someone from the other side of the pond and like-minded, like-hearted, like you just you're doing your thing, and it's awesome. I'm so glad you reached out and we were able to have this connection. Because man, it's like you're right. The internet is bringing these tribes together, bringing these people together, and it's growing because I don't know why, but it's happening.
It is happening.
It's amazing to be a part of it, and everyone listening right now, you're a part of it as well, and. Do the same thing in your life. Take the reins. Like you said, be the leader, be the hero of your own life. Like, get real with yourself.
Even for the people listening that have a dream and maybe, you could have used the excuse 10 years ago that, you're from a small place and there's not enough interest in what you do there. There's not enough people that want to learn how to do whatever you teach. But the internet is there now. There's 6-7 billion people in the world, and you've got access to a lot of those people. When you go out with a genuine interest in helping people, don't look for the money, look to help people, and the money's going to come, and then you can go and do your thing full time. Mm-hmm. Seth Godin's book, you mentioned Seth Godin, the book Tribes is one of the big things that influenced me early on. And that's the idea that you don't need the mainstream. You just need a couple of hundred people that believe in what you do and will invest in what you do, and you can start a tribe, and the tribe's going to grow. To me, it was a couple of dozen people that believed in me, and that became, whatever it is now. So it's start where you are. Sometimes it's great to have a vision, a big vision, a big goal, but that can paralyze you from getting started because you think, how am I going to get there? But if you take the first step, so the people listening to this, do something, you don't have to, like I say, quit your job tomorrow, but do something that moves you in the right direction. Because if you do something today, the next step appears, and then the next step, and then the next step. And that's probably a message to the world is don't be paralyzed all your life. Keep moving. Just keep moving forward, little steps. And I think anything's possible.
Powerful.
Yeah, I definitely think if you want to relocate, if you're going to move somewhere in the world and not go back to Ireland, you fit in very nicely in Vancouver, and there's lots of people here, lots of circles you could definitely tap into because this place is pretty rich with everything you're talking about.
I don't know if you've time. There was I came in here a couple of days ago, and my buddy was going to collect me from one of the stations, so he told me get off in, is it Yaletown? I don't know, was it Yaletown?
Well, it could be Yaletown.
One of the main stations. So he said, get off in this station. It's the main street. But I read it wrong and I thought he said, go to Main Street.
Oh, okay.
So I went down to Main Street. Main Street's not the nicest part of town, I don't think.
So you
different parts of Main Street.
Yeah, so Main Street's just that way a little bit.
Okay.
And if you go 1 or 2 blocks that way, you're going to be right in the heart of the downtown east side, which is it's been this way for a very long time in the city. It's been this way well over 100 years now.
I think I was in East Hastings. Is that the place?
Yeah, East Hastings. I mean,
East Hastings in Maine.
This is the downtown east side. We are part of it technically. And this part is definitely being gentrified, so you're going to get such a mixed bag in this neighborhood. Gastown's a very cool area. There's lots of restaurants, lots of great things to do here. If you go down that way, you're gonna see it. You're gonna see it all.
Pretty wild, yeah.
The funny thing is though, it's not that bad. I walk through there. Pretty frequently for different reasons, and I don't really ever feel threatened. However, I'm like a 220 pound, gorilla male. So I mean,
I just felt out of place. I went into one of the pubs and took out my laptop because I had to charge my phone, and every head in the place turned around to see what's he doing.
What are you doing in here, boy?
FBI agent.
What you doing, boy?
Who's this alien?
He's on to us.
No, you want it for laptops? Go to Yaletown. Laptops go to Cole Harbor, West End. Laptops are fairly acceptable over there too. So no, I mean Vancouver's a great little city. Just make explore.
I'd love to do a talk here next time I come over because
we got a guy. We got a guy who can hook you up.
That would be brilliant. Yeah.
There's a guy, a fellow named Connor Beaton. He's developed what's called Man Talks.
Okay.
And it's really taken off actually.
Nice.
And we have both spoken at it.
Nice.
And he recently. Have you heard of Lewis Howe?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of his stuff.
Yeah, he recently had him come in to do a talk. He just got featured by CBC, which is Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, and they actually are doing a documentary on him now.
Wow.
And they flew in an author from the States named Stephen Mansfield, and he's all about men's empowerment, kind of building a band of brothers around you kind of thing in a very healthy kind of way.
Yeah.
They flew him up, and they did for the end of his documentary, they did like a intimate little. It was like 50 people there, and then Stephen Mansfield did a talk. So. Next time you're in town, Connor's the guy to get in touch with because he does these monthly man talks, and he generally draws out anywhere from 100 to 200 people.
Yeah, and I'll get the Irish crew in because there's a lot of Irish over here, so that would be cool.
For sure. Yeah,
absolutely.
And you're right up that alley. He's all he's personal development.
Brilliant.
For sure. So next time you're here, we could connect you. Let me know in advance, and I'll definitely connect you with him. And he does it once a month, so you'd have to coordinate that, obviously. So
I'm here. Cool. Sold.
There you go.
All right.
Awesome.
Sweet. Well, thanks for coming on, Pat. PatDivilly.com is DIVILLY.com.
Any social channels you want to put out there?
Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter. I'm on all of them. Pat Divilly. Just shoot me a message if I can be of any assistance in any way. And I'll share this out with all my tribe, and hopefully they come your way because I like what you're doing. So
beautiful.
Cool. Thank you so much, man.
Well,
awesome.
Yeah. Well, we can wrap it up. And if you like what you heard today and you want to hear more, go to our iTunes or Stitcher, give us a review, give us a rating, like, subscribe, all that good stuff.
Share.
We are very available. So if you just look for Vancouver Real, you'll find us. So
until
next time.
To whatever is.